Hello, everyone. It's Andrew here, and this is going to be a new series that I'm going to release on YouTube, and it's called Snippets of Taoist Wisdom. So I want to share very short videos that will introduce you to the Taoist internal alchemy path. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something called grounding and the Lower Tan Tien. Okay, so this is a word that is used in the Taoist teachings, Dan Tien. It means I mean, the closest you could get to it in the Indian system would be chakra, but this is not the chakras, okay? We have three Dantiens, okay? We have one in the lower belly, okay? And that's what I'm going to be talking to you today about. We have another one in the heart, and we have one in the head. The lower one represents what the Taoists call Jing, and it's very connected in with grounding and being rooted in this world and in this body. The middle one is related to Qi, and the upper one is related to Shen, okay? So in Taoist alchemy and in all my classes and all my teachings, the first step is to develop the lower Dan Tien. We basically bring our awareness down into that place, and we make that center in our lower body, we make it a very high spiritual center. So in Taoist alchemy, we don't spend a lot of time opening up the upper centers, okay? It's very different to the Indian system in that regards. We focus initially in the lower center. Why? Number one, we need to be grounded. Number two, that center eventually becomes the foundation for the more subtle, higher spiritual vibrations, okay? So one of the things I've noticed a lot in my over 30 years of teaching and practicing and traveling around the world, and this is a very common thing that happens with many people on the spiritual path. They go to a course, they do a special meditation, they read something very inspiring, and they have this, what I call like almost like a mini enlightenment experience, like the third eye could open, the heart could open, right? But all of them get very frustrated, and they say oftentimes that they'll have this experience, but it doesn't stay. It doesn't stay. And oftentimes there's this sort of very up and down experience, okay? Taoist alchemy addresses that, addresses it at the most fundamental layer. At the most fundamental level. And it's also the best practice I've found to not spiritually bypass, okay? So many people have had this experience where they meet a spiritual person, you know, in a relationship or something like this, or they go to a course and they have this very high experience, and then they find out later on that the person is acting unethically, or the partner is not, is like doing some strange things, right? And this is because there's been some spiritual bypassing. So in all of my training, all of my courses, we build the lower Dantian first. We make sure that that center, and it includes the sexual center, is open, that the emotional body is really balanced and harmonious. And if, you know, you can take the emotional alchemy training on my website if you're interested in that one, which is to balance the emotional body. So I always say, before you start cultivating the sexual energy, you have to make sure your emotional body is quite balanced, because otherwise you take all your patterns into sexual cultivation, and that sexual energy is like gasoline. It pours on these emotional patterns, and then you have all these, you know, these things that are unresolved, basically. So this lower Dantian, once you activate it, and once you bring your awareness there, like, for example, as I'm speaking to you right now, my awareness is not here. It's a little bit in my heart, but it's mostly in my lower Dantian. I'm feeling very connected to my body. I'm feeling very centered, and I'm feeling very in touch with the earth's energy body. And I find it's just so helpful for me in my life. You know, the other day, it wasn't the other day, it was maybe about 6 months ago, I got invited to a friend's birthday party, and it was here on Bali, but it was it was down in the party area, you know, and they were in a disco, you know, in one of these clubs. And I haven't been in a club for I don't know how many years. I mean, I used to be a musician. Some of you know I used to be a musician, so I was in clubs a lot, right? And I was amazed. I went into this club, you know, there's people smoking, there's the loud noise, there's all this, and there's all this crazy energy, right? And I was just so amazed. I was so centered. Nothing was pulling me out. My lower Dantian was so strong. When I left that place, it hadn't even touched me. So, and I hear this from my students, that when they develop the lower Dantian, they're much more centered. Their emotional body is more even. They don't have these ups and downs that many on these other paths do. So this is why I want all of you to learn to cultivate your lower Dantian, okay? So let me just quickly explain Dantian, what it means. Okay, Tan means like your essence, and Tien means like a space or like a cauldron. So basically what you're doing is you're cultivating your soul, you're cultivating your spirit, that which is invisible inside of you, in the lower Dantian. And you're making that place a spiritual center, and you're bringing all the Shen, all the higher dimensions into that center. And it's almost like it's what Jesus said, you have to be born again. So I always joke in Taoist alchemy that men and women can get pregnant. So that Dantian is where we cultivate the soul. And initially, it's just a small spark. It's just a small awareness. But as you feed it continually, good energy, the virtues from your soul, eventually starts to grow. The awareness starts to grow. And the Taoists give this image of like a little baby inside there growing. And it's literally like that. You literally have a new life being birthed inside of you. And then the rest of the alchemy practice then is about letting that small infant grow up into a wise sage. And so you gradually open up the other Dantians. You open up the heart and you open up the higher centers. But now you have a firm foundation, a very, very firm foundation. So yeah, this is the first of hopefully a series that I'm going to be doing, introducing Taoist terms and introducing the practical applications for that in your life. Okay, lots of love, everyone. See you all soon.